Today's date is Wednesday, November 27. This is the news on PBCJ. I am Simone Absalom. The government expects to table a new national identification bill by March 31, 2020, the end of the financial year. Prime Minister Andrew Holness on Tuesday informed the House of Representatives that despite not appealing last year's decision by the court to strike down several sections of the National Identification and Registration Act, also referred to as NIDS, the government would not be abandoning its identification aspects.
The government has completed a revised policy consistent with the recommendations of the Supreme Court's ruling on the NIDS that is now being reviewed by our primary stakeholders. We expect the review process to be completed in the next 2 weeks.
However, in response to questions raised by opposition's spokesman on science and technology, Julian Robinson, Mr. Holness conceded that there are consultations taking place.
Opposition is considered to be part of the primary stakeholders, so it would be, for example, the banks who have an interest, other financial institutions, other agencies like PICA and so forth that have an interest, and the opposition. So they would have a list of persons to consult. So if they haven't consulted with you yet, obviously you would be on the list to be consulted. So that consultation, as I said in my speech, is ongoing. It's not complete.
According to the Prime Minister, the target is to issue new drafting instructions with strengthened oversight and security provisions by January 2020, with the aim to table a new bill by the end of the financial year 2019-2020.
We have listened to the frustration on the various media outlets, and we have read the tweets and posts and emails and letters of persons complaining. So today I want to assure the people of Jamaica that the government, in consultation with stakeholders, will continue to act in the best interest of our citizens to secure and provide a digital platform on which they can conduct commerce seamlessly and efficiently.
While explaining that the government is committed to strengthening the public sector systems, Mr. Holness reiterated that the program was much more than simply about identification.
This program was much more than identification. This program was always about modernizing Jamaica's ICT infrastructure to support the effective and efficient delivery of government services. The government is committed to strengthening the public sector systems to enable better service delivery to the people of Jamaica. Our people deserve the best, and this administration that I lead is committed to ensuring that the systems, processes, and technology are in place to give the people of Jamaica the best possible service.
He informed the House on November 11 that Cabinet approved the First Amendment of the NIDS Solution Contract for the disaggregation, adoption, and execution of the non-national identification system outlined in the contract awarded to Productive Business Solutions Limited-led consortium dated March 11, 2019. The First Amendment will allow the project team to focus on the ICT upgrade activities until a new National Identification and Registration Bill is tabled. Business leader Metro Seaga wants the government to appoint an individual in each of its ministries, departments and agencies to monitor the newly approved procurement legislation. He says the government could implement a new procurement policy and put one person in every ministry or government agency for the sole purpose to buy local when and where possible. Seaga said that this is necessary because when the government is spending taxes, it has a responsibility to seek to buy local when and where possible. He was speaking at Jamaica Observer on Monday. In late October, Minister of Finance and Public Sector Dr. Nigel Clark piloted 2 orders which will give effect to special and differential treatment of MSMEs in accessing government procurement contracts in certain circumstances. Minister of Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sport, Olivia Grange, in a statement to Parliament on Tuesday, said this week's commemoration of International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women is unfortunately still relevant because violence is still a major factor in the life of far too many women.
We put special focus on the victims. We remind them that we have mechanisms in place to help them leave their abusive situations and rebuild their lives. We recommit as individuals and as a country to take action to end the violence. And we serve notice to men who continue to abuse women that enough is enough and we are coming to get you.
$12.5 million was paid out in an out-of-court settlement to former CEO of E-Gov Jamaica Limited, Herman Athias, after he was sacked by the company's chairman, Professor Lloyd Waller. Athias had taken out a lawsuit for unjustifiable termination under a fixed-term contract of employment and unfair prejudice, as set out in Section 213A of the Companies Act, against E-Gov Jamaica, which was the first defendant. Minister of Science, Technology and Energy, Favour Williams, said that the company had to pay legal costs incurred by E-Gov in the court case.
Yes, E-Gov Jamaica Limited has settled a lawsuit brought against it as first defendant and its chairman, Professor Lloyd Waller, as second defendant by its former CEO, Mr. Herman Athias. The reference basis for the lawsuit were 1. Unjustifiable termination under a fixed-term contract of employment and unfair prejudice pursuant to Section 213A of the Companies Act against E-Gov Jamaica as first defendant and instigating a breach of contract against Professor Lloyd Waller, chairman of the board of directors, as second defendant.
She was responding to questions from her opposition counterpart, Julian Robinson, in Gordon House Tuesday. Minister Williams said that legal advice was sought for Waller before the termination of Athias' contract. Minister Williams said that the parties went to mediation on June 26 this year, and an agreement was reached. E-Gov Jamaica is a full-service information and communications technology company that offers a wide range of services to the government and other clients. Prime Minister Andrew Holness says the Pembroke teacher caught on camera threatening a student with violence is in need of support, and the Ministry of Education is seeking to deliver that assistance. At the same time, the Prime Minister said the St. Andrew-based school needs intervention. There have been intense public reactions to the incident after a video went viral in which the teacher threatened to harm the child. In a leaked voice note, the teacher later explained that she lost it. However, speaking on a nationwide radio interview on Tuesday, Mr. Holness said the teacher's behavior cannot be condoned. The teacher is now on leave while an investigation is carried out. The public is being advised to remain prepared as the end of the hurricane season approaches because, according to the Office of Disaster Preparedness and Emergency Management, ODPEM, disasters can strike at any time. The hurricane season officially ends on November 30. ODPEM further encouraged the public to develop an emergency plan for all disasters. Let's see what reporter Tian Dowlett is talking about in the streets of Jamaica today.
Yo, corporal punishment right now, I think people will still get licked here, man. Alright, this is when I say they will still get licked. You see, at the end of the day, if you even have a little puppy, and him there in your yard, and him a tear up paper all of this. More than you have to slap a puppy man and say, yo, stop tear up the paper in your yard. You get me? So it's me picking him. Remember as a youth, you know, my mother used to tell me, say, yo, stop play ball and come take up your book. I not take up no book because mommy not beat me. And when mommy start put on lick for me now, you get me? I say, oh, book here man, because I don't want to beat him. But at the end of the day, I like say, I kill where I kill the pitney, you know, yo. You get me? But pitney, we get slapped, man. Pitney, we get slapped. Big man thing, you get me? You can't just grow up in this and just attack. More time pitney don't have time to listen to you when you're talking. Because I say, oh, I just talk, him attack. You see me? Pitney, we get slapped, man. I believe in it. And I like to say, if we cut up, pitney, we get slapped.
The corporal punishment in primary school is that the teacher they must be lenient on the kids. Let me say the son part, exhort that. But this other one, put them off in the up and all two buckle stopper. Because I'm mad days when I got only from the primary school, we get punishment. But we don't lock out of school.
Well, depends on the punishment too. But what I'm saying, if children like get punishment like in the sun, and I usually get it because it makes you learn a lot. I have respect for teachers and elderly outside behind the school. But in the school compound, well, yeah, depends again on the punishment what we are getting.
Well, my opinion is instead of beating the children, them can punish them a little, because sometimes them rude, you know. Them very rude. Because I have one them may tell them rude sometimes, and them fight. And sometimes them fight like in a devotion or in the classroom. So a teacher can put them on a little punishment. I don't see nothing wrong with that.
I think the punishment in school for children who disobey a teacher, do not hit them. Give them 6 days worth of homework to do. Well, if them don't come to school within the 6 days, then you have another solution for them, but do not hit them.
Well, you can give them a little tap, but you know, not extravagant for them to show, because these kids are so miserable.
The US dollar is being traded at Jamaican $137.05, down by 50 cents. That's according to the Bank of Jamaica's daily foreign exchange trading summary. The Canadian dollar is being traded at $103.24, down from $103.40, while the British pound sterling ended trading at $175.04, up from $174.90. Executive Director of the United Nations Population Fund, Dr. Natalia Kenham, gives her remarks during a press conference at the Nairobi Summit on the International Conference on Population and Development. The conference was held earlier in November, Nairobi, Kenya. We have more in this special report.
Over 143 million people are in need of humanitarian assistance. More than 1 in 4 women and adolescent girls, whose safety and dignity are often violated, must be protected in humanitarian settings.
We need a feminist humanitarian system. We need feminist humanitarian action. And what does that mean? It means that we put girls and women at the center. We focus and we listen to the women on the front line who lives the crisis, the emergencies, the floods, the wars every day.
This issue is only getting worse.
Women were left behind for a long time, so it's time to address their needs. Such a global summit can help us to raise our concerns and our voices to other international partners. What we care for and what we are looking for are the actions.
New approaches and solutions involving women and girls in the process is key.
We are working for a future that is free of patriarchy and free of violence against women and girls.
Fighting for those who are most vulnerable is a central theme of the Nairobi Summit on ICPD 25. To build a more just world where gender equality and basic human rights are a reality for everyone.
In other news across the region, in Dominica, opposition leader Lennox Linton has sought to clear the air on allegations made against him in a documentary produced by international TV network Al Jazeera. The first part of a documentary, Diplomats for Sale, which names Dominica as one of the countries involved in the alleged sale of diplomatic passports, aired Monday on Al Jazeera. The document also mentioned attorney David Bruni and Sarah Finn appearing as a key in direct involvement with the opposition leader who is campaigning on a platform of anti-corruption. Here's a snippet from the documentary.
Through me, there's easy access to him.
Okay. Can you say you're speaking on his behalf, David?
Yes, I can say that.
Lennox Linton, the opposition leader, could become the next Prime Minister within weeks.
The opposition now really requires funding. Make no mistake, we are moving along, but as in all things, financial contributions are required.
Undercover filming also revealed how former Dominican Prime Minister Oliver Sarafin offered to broker a secret deal to hand out an ambassadorship in Asia for fees totaling $470,000. However, Linton said during a live interview on Q95 radio on Tuesday that he has not spoken to or seen Oliver Sarafin in more than 5 years, nor has he had any conversation with Bruni to sell diplomatic passports, ambassadorships, or diplomatic immunity to anybody.
I felt, and the representation that was made to me by David, and David is somebody I know, going back many years. David is not just a friend, David is like a brother. And so I trusted his judgment. Was I right to do it or wrong to do it? That's besides the point. This is in the universe right now. It has happened, right? But the relationship or the discussion between me and David had nothing to do with any exchange of ambassadorship for money, any exchange of diplomatic immunity for money, any exchange of diplomatic passport for money. And indeed, the Al Jazeera report states clearly that the document they saw has no mention of any money or any campaign contribution. And I think that's a very important disclosure that the people who are looking at this are willing to gloss over. It's a very significant material disclosure from Al Jazeera who has seen the document.
Staying in Dominica, Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerrit has insisted that electoral reform cannot be undertaken before next month's general election. He made the declaration even as the opposition called on President Charles Savin to postpone the polls. Skerrit says such calls are aimed at creating chaos.
The call by the opposition for electoral reform at this time is a veneer being used by the UWP to confuse the public, create public unrest, incite violence, and provoke a confrontation with the police. Their goal ultimately is to stop elections and to justify external intervention in the national electoral process. The government has not tampered with the electoral laws in any way whatsoever. The current elections are being run and conducted under the same laws and processes that Dominica has had in place ever since independence for 41 years now. The UWP became the government with these laws, and the UWP became the opposition with these laws. The Dominica Labour Party was in opposition for a very long time, over 20 years, with these laws, and we contested the elections and became the government with these laws.
Skerrit did promise, however, that if the ruling Dominica Labour Party is successful in the December 6 elections, that the government would make electoral reform a priority.
Electoral reform is a costly, protracted, and time-consuming exercise. Every Caribbean government has attempted electoral reform. The same is true in the Commonwealth of Dominica. It has been alleged that the Dominica Labour Party government, which is trying to stop electoral reform in Dominica. The allegation seems to be that government fears electoral defeat. Nothing could be further from the truth. As a matter of fact, we have been in discussions with a couple of our partners who are prepared to finance and to oversee and to coordinate on the country's behalf the electoral reform process. And a letter will go out tomorrow making that formal request, following on our conversations with those countries concerned. So the issue of electoral reform is that this government certainly is not fearful of anything whatsoever.
Bahamas Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis says marijuana reform is a matter of social justice and has restated his support for decriminalizing possession of small quantities of the substance, as well as expunging convictions. Clint Watson of Eyewitness News reports.
The Bahamas regarding the possession of small amounts of marijuana have led to the arrest, prosecution, conviction, and punishment of many Bahamians. According to Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis, this is unfortunate and must change.
A lot of our young people, especially many who even working week to week with government, cannot be regularized. Individuals cannot get jobs. Individuals cannot travel. These are individuals who can make contribution to society, who complains every day that they want to make a contribution, they want to go to university, etc. And this one element holds them back.
Dr. Minnis says he eagerly awaits the release of the report by the Bahamas National Commission on Marijuana. He says his government will use the report's finding to help reform the country's marijuana laws. As to whether he believes his public statement on his position on the matter will influence the board's decision,
My decision will not influence their report. They're doing their work, and they will do their work, and I await their report.
in a statement Sunday, the Prime Minister went as far as to suggest that part of this reform should be expunging the records of Bahamians convicted of small amounts of marijuana possession, saying having coming from the over-the-hill community, he has seen firsthand how our current laws especially harm young people from modest backgrounds. Dr. Minnis further noted that a Rehabilitation of Offenders Committee has been formed and is reviewing a number of matters for recommendation, including the possible expunging of some criminal records for possession of small amounts of marijuana. The government will also take into consideration their recommendations.
In sports, we look at football as Jamaica College JC's head coach Davian Ferguson believes that the team's winning culture will make a huge difference in their ISA Digital Manning Cup final against St. Andrew Technical this Friday at the National Stadium. The teams meet in a repeat of the 2017 final, which Jamaica College won 5-3 on penalties after both teams played out 1-1 in regulation and extra time. Staffs who won their only Manning Cup title in 1987 are fancied to win Friday's final and break their 32-year drought. JC have won 29 Manning Cup titles, more than any other school, and were the dominant team in the competition from 2013 to 2017, when they won 5 consecutive titles under the guidance of Miguel Coley. And that's the news on PBCJ. Thanks so much for watching.